Hello everyone, New at Games here with another video in the tutorial series of remaking the core version of Getaway Shootout. In this video, we're going to be implementing spawn points into the game, and actually we kind of got this system implemented in the last video where we added these waypoints to the map. But in this video, we'll be going forward with this and actually making certain waypoints spawnable and certain waypoints not spawnable, so that they are for the computer movement. And the other thing will actually fix that issue of players going back all the way to the start, but resetting their spawn point, because we want the players to always keep the spawn point as furthest as they go, even if they come backwards. So that's what we'll be doing today, is to get this spawn point system fully implemented. And I'll just start off by going and navigating to that waypoint script that we made in the last video. And as I was saying in the beginning, all I want to do is to make it optional for some waypoints to be spawnable and for some waypoints not to be spawnable. So I'll just create a variable in this waypoint class, and I'll call it a bool, and I'll call it spawnable. Now, as I was saying in the last video, I actually created a visualization for these waypoints. So I'm just going to actually edit that editor class to make it visible that which waypoints are spawnable and which waypoints are not. And that's what I had before, so I'm just going to re-enable that. But yeah, we don't have to worry too much about this editor code. So I'm just going to save that. And now navigating to the waypoints class, we should have the option to make it spawnable. So if I make the first waypoint spawnable, it'll be a little red circle to mark as spawnable, and the other ones are marked as gray. So I'm just going to make these two spawnable, and I'll make just a fourth one here, and I'll drag it just a little bit down there and not make it spawnable. So now we have two spawnable waypoints and then two just regular waypoints that will be used in the future for guiding the computer movement. So I'm going to save that map, and the next thing to actually do is to now implement this new spawnable logic into the waypoint manager, and this was the class we made in the last video. So I'm just going to jump to waypoint manager right here, and not much has to change with this logic. There was two things that we need to fix. Is the spawnable, not all waypoints are spawnable now, and we need to keep track of the furthest along waypoint. So what we can do is to actually create another variable and call it spawn waypoints. And this would just keep track of the farthest spawn waypoint that we reach. As well, we'll keep track of still that cur waypoints, which is just where the player, or the current navigator, which is just the player, their current waypoint in the map. And already, so I see there's like duplicate, a lot of lists here. So I think it'd be actually a good opportunity to actually make this into like a data structure, like a class. Because if we in the future had more information, say a Boolean that corresponded to each of the navigators, it'd just be annoying to add lists for each one. So what I'm going to do instead is to create a class. I'm going to call it navigator info. And let's see. So we will put the int for the current waypoint, and we'll also do an int for the spawn waypoint. And this is corresponding to each navigator. So I'll remove these. And so what we could do, we could do something like navigator info, navigator info. So we could make this into an array, something like this, and we could also add the transform for the navigator. So something like this works, just having an array and then you remove this. But this kind of sets up a nice opportunity to use something called a dictionary in C#, because we have these navigators and we can actually use these as the key, because if you see below here, we're using these the navigator kind of as a key to get the index of. So dictionaries are a bit complicated. They're not just a simple array. But if you ever use Python or something equivalent, it's just a way of having a key and a value. So I'm going to actually do that right now. So I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to also remove this. And since that the navigator is going to be the key, I'm going to remove it from the info. So this will be our value of the dictionary. So I'm going to do something like dictionary. And our key, again, will be the transform, which is just the navigator. And then our value is just going to be the navigator info. And I'm going to call this navigator info, something like that. And then I'll just initialize the dictionary as empty up in line here. So you don't have to worry too much about this, but it is just it'll be a nice way to easily get the associated navigator info associated with that navigator transform key. So we do have to switch up the logic just a little bit here now. The first thing is when we add navigator, we'll actually add to the navigator info, and we'll just do an add, and it's asking for the key, which is just the navigator, and the value, which is going to be the data of the navigator. So this is just the navigator info, and we'll just create a new navigator info that is just empty. So there's nothing. It'll be both set to 0 and 0 for the current waypoint and spawn waypoint, which is what we want. So that is initializing the navigator infos. Let's see. The next thing I'll do is I'll just comment this out for right now. We have to update this update navs loop. So before we were looping through each navigators just with a for loop like that. I'm going to do something very similar and actually use the for each loop. And we'll do a for each loop on the navigator info. And so this nav will have, because it's a dictionary, it will have a key, but it'll also have the value. And the key is actually the navigator transform. So we'll do the same thing here, which is basically just copying this logic. So the first thing that we did is to get the current waypoint, and that is actually just simply nav.value, since we want the value, and then getting the current waypoint like that. The next thing we have to update is this navigator.position. I think it'll just be easy to make a variable for position up here called position, and we'll do nav.key. So this is the transform of that navigator, and we'll do position like that. So I'm just going to pass in the position vector like that, and also do the position vector here. So the next thing we need to update is this logic right here. So this is when we want to decrement the current waypoint. So all we have to do is get that navigator value, so nav value, current waypoint, and then decrease it like so. And down here, same thing. We want to increase the current waypoint as we did in the previous video. So something like that. But now, the one special change and why we're refactoring all this code is we have this spawn waypoint value here, and we want to update that only when we go to new waypoint, when we increase the waypoint. So we'll do that here. And the first thing we should check is if this new waypoint that we're at, if it's spawnable. If it's not spawnable, don't do anything. So I'm just going to check if waypoints, and then get the current waypoint. So nav, I guess we can do cur w plus 1 since we increase it right there. And we just want to check if it's spawnable. And if it is spawnable, well, now we want to set the current spawn waypoint. So we'll go nav.value spawn waypoint. And this is actually going to be a little different because, as I was saying in the beginning of the video, we want to only keep the spawn point that is furthest along the level. And since we have just a linear array of waypoints, this is just going to be the waypoint with the highest index. So I'm going to do something like math.max, and pretty sure that's for, yeah, that's allows integers as well. And we'll do math.max for this current waypoint, and we want to do also the previous waypoint that we're at. So this is just making sure that whatever new spawn point we set is the maximum of our current waypoint and the new waypoint that we're at. So it'll always be the largest value there. I'm going to get rid of this old code here. And yeah, that should be enough for the logic there. And the last thing that we need to update is this function that we created at the end of the last video. And this is just getting the current navigator waypoint. And this will actually be a little simpler. Since we're using a dictionary, we can just get the current navigator by using this dictionary. So the dictionary has a special use of these brackets. The brackets, or I forget what you actually call this. Maybe it's like an accessor, but basically we pass in the key to the bracket, and it acts like an array where this will give us the current element. So we'll get the current value from the dictionary. So this will be a navigator info, something like this. But the one thing which we did up here is that we should actually check if this info is null, because if the navigator actually isn't in the dictionary, say we never added it, this will be null here. So I'm going to say if info is null, and let me look up a good exception here. Hold on. Okay, I'll do something like throw a key not found exception. And this was just like exception that I found. But really you could throw any exception. It just helps that it'll be easily identified as something that makes sense with our case, since the navigator in this case was not in the dictionary. And we'll just add a little message as well saying navigator is never added to the dictionary, and we forgot new, so we'll throw the exception. And this is just only if you never add the navigator, so we don't have to worry about this too much. And I'll get rid of this. And the last thing we'll do is, instead of returning waypoints like this, we'll use the info object that we just got from here, and we'll actually use the current waypoint, so something like that. And already, so we we're using cur waypoint for the spawn points, but I would like to add actually another method, very similar, and we'll get nav spawn point, spawn waypoint, something like that. And it'll do the same exact thing pretty much, but instead of current waypoint, we'll do spawn waypoint. So something like that. And actually, I'll enable this back in. So I'm just gonna do another for each loop to get back the debug, which will be helpful when visualizing in the editor. And we'll just do something similar like here, loop through all the navigators. And all we want to do is just draw that line. So again, we'll get the navigator key. So nav.key.position and get the value. So nav.value.current waypoint. And I guess for testing, we can actually also do something like this. We'll do another line and we'll draw it yellow and do something like that. And we'll make it draw a line to the current spawn waypoint. So that will just make it easy to see in the editor. And the last thing that I want to do is just to jump to the game manager and to actually use that new method that we created for the spawn waypoint. Because we actually aren't going to be using this cur waypoint. This will actually be used more for the computer movement when they for it to jump to the next waypoint. So I'm going to jump back here, and so we were creating we were getting the spawn waypoint by calling this method. So all we'll do is just change this to get nav spawn waypoint. So something like that. And I guess, let's see. I'll keep that one actually the same since this is at the start. So it kind of makes sense just to always have the player start at the 0 waypoint. I guess both methods would be the same, but we'll just keep that one the same. And I'll get nav spawn waypoint, something like that. So down here, we for sure want to be getting the spawn waypoint when the player dies mid-game. Okay, so now all we have to do is actually just test to make sure that this code works. So hopefully we should see 2 lines in the editor, one green, one yellow. And right now we only see a yellow line, but I'm assuming that these are just being drawn over the green line. So if I go to the next waypoint, okay, that's good. So we see the player is at the next waypoint, so their current waypoint is here at the green line. But we also have the yellow waypoint, which is the current spawn waypoint, since there's only one spawn point right there, and that's not a spawn point. So if I continue going to the right, get past this person, we can see we jump to the next spawn point, and that the spawn point and the current waypoint is both at that next waypoint. And then finally, if I go to the next one, we can see that our current waypoint is there and our spawn waypoint is there. Okay, so that system's working good. One thing I'll test is just if I go backwards, we maintain this current waypoint here, which is exactly what we want. And yeah, I guess the system appears to be looking good. The next thing to do here now would actually be to implement the computer movement, because at this point the spawn waypoint system seems to be working. And the last thing I was saying when I was making this waypoint system is for the functionality of actually using these waypoints. So if I grab like one of these waypoints, using these waypoints as kind of directions for the player to jump to. So it's kind of like a puzzle. We'll scatter these waypoints across the map, and it'll be placed very specifically so that the player jumps at the right angle to really navigate through the map. And yeah, that's something that we'll be doing in the next video. So stay tuned. Thank you.